Today, we are chatting to none other than Jonathan Smit. Now, he started a payment gateway in South Africa. Now, payment gateways and on e-commerce in South Africa, as you know, has been quite a slow start, and he's done actually really, really well. He's also, by the way, found this out into seriously hectic details with cameras. So it's cutting time on a camera to give those matrix effects, and he also has properties all over South Africa. I mean, this guy's low profile, big deal. Okay. So guys, can you all stand? Give a startup grind welcome to none other than Jonathan Smit.
Awesome. Feel like a rock star. Thanks, guys.
There we go. Okay, the microphone's working again.
Yes, I think we're both on now.
There we go, both online. Okay, here's my pen. Awesome. Okay. Right, can everybody hear at the back? You should. We've got microphones. And in the front. Don't forget to ask questions on Slido. And right, so we're going to kick off Startup Grind. This is the second one this year, by the way. Next one will be on the 27th of March. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Where were you born?
Actually born in Johannesburg, funny enough, which is, I grew up in Pretoria, but born in Joburg, I think at the Park Lane Clinic, something along those lines. When it just opened, actually funny enough you mentioned that, I actually have a scar on my forehead because when they opened they didn't have a whole bunch of the equipment, and my mom had this Scottish nurse, and she was using these gloves and she kept putting her fingernails through these gloves. So eventually just forwent the gloves and actually helped me cry, and she left marks on my forehead, which actually only disappeared after I think about 25 years.
You're a grown man, you're walking around.
Yeah. Funny
Wow,
one, but yeah.
that's
So
crazy.
born in Joburg, grew up in Pretoria.
Okay. And from there you went to Pretoria.
Yeah, so I went to school, Brooklyn Primary. It's actually quite funny. I ended up staying in a fairly small area, actually, in terms of primary school, high school, varsity, much to my dismay, actually. But lived in Linwood, went to primary school called Brooklyn, which probably 2 or 3 kilometers away. Then went from there to Pretoria Boys High School, which was fantastic, and then went to Tuckies.
Wow, so you did the whole Hatfield thing.
Pretty close, yeah. Hatfield. It was a very good time. Good time. You're Pretoria boy as well.
There we go.
I don't know if I'd go there now though. It's a little dodgy, but
No, you don't know where you're going because the street names have all changed.
Oh,
so
gosh.
I get lost in my own hometown.
I know the Gautrain station now. That's about it. The rest of it, it's changed
Yeah,
dramatically.
that was an awesome dodge.
And actually thinking about this small area, I went to my first job was actually right next door to the university. So literally stayed in this.
Did you need a car? You didn't need a car when you were
probably
young,
didn't.
so.
No, 5 square kilometer radius. That was me. Like in this little in my own goldfish bowl.
You didn't ever go to Danville side?
I tried one too. No, unless I needed car parts, then I had to go.
Right, okay. The Pretoria guys will get that one. Yeah.
That's on the wrong side of the tracks, really.
Yeah, scary. Okay, now being up as a kid, tell us about your parents, what they did.
So my father's a quantity surveyor. My mom, she was a cost engineer, so they both worked in the building industry. That's actually how they met. But generally, they've both been reasonably, not entrepreneurial necessarily in the sense we might view, but they've both been business owners. My dad was a partner in the firm. My mother was a cost engineer. She worked for very large engineering companies, but then also left that to start a guest house, B&B, tourist company. So she's familiar with running her own business. My father was familiar about running his own business. So I learned a lot about tax and finances, good administration, accounting principles, things like that. I wouldn't say accounting principles, but good order and systematic approach to things from my father.
And do you think it helped a bit with your coding and your more logical approach to problems?
So logic, probably yes. Nothing to do with technology whatsoever. I mean, they're not. My parents are fairly tech savvy, but no one in the family was really into technology in any way, shape, or form. I, for whatever reason, was interested in electronics and technology from a very early age. I had this little brown suitcase that had little electric motors, and I was big into Meccano and Lego.
Did you ever get those Archimedes?
No, I never got to Archimedes. I was an Archimedes. I was a Meccano Lego fan. So I've actually still got my Lego, which is great. It's carrying around there for one day when I have a kid. Meccano as well. Got all that stuff.
Those are classics.
They're really expensive now, so I think I'm going to reap the rewards of that in a good few years.
Okay. I just want to find out how many of you guys sitting in the audience are actually developers and programmers and into that side of things. I need to know how in depth we can go on this technical side, because I'm technical and he's technical, so it's good to get a bit technical. So if it does get technical, please someone stand up and say, "Hey, business side here, guys, come on." Time out. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Your first computer, I believe, was a Commodore 64.
Yeah, Commodore 64. Good times.
There we go. There's some depths. I can hear it. Woo!
Kindred spirits. I think I had totally.
There we go.
I think I had the Commodore 64 when I was 5 or 6, something along those lines. And I remember this one game, I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was this guy who had to clamber around platforms and jump into things. And it took 30 minutes to load this damn thing off this cassette. You had like a series of 4 tapes to put them in, and they would read. You had to be very patient to get this game loaded. And something would go wrong in like minute 29. Start again from the beginning to get it going.
Listen, I loaded Windows 95 with 45 stiffitous.
I feel your pain.
I did that. Yeah. We did that. Yes.
We're old enough to have been brought up in the days of BBSs and modems connecting, as the early days of the internet.
One of those. Okay, now take us, how did you end up in Cape Town?
So that's really jumping forward quite a lot. After I started PayFast, about a year into it, my girlfriend graduated, and she was looking around for work, and Cape Town was a very attractive opportunity. And I always wanted to live in Cape Town. My uncle is actually a teacher at Saks, so we came and visited him every now and again. I just found Cape Town really, really beautiful. My heritage is kind of United Kingdom, so my grandparents are English, Scottish, Irish, and South African.
So you're South African?
Yeah, it's totally a mixed breed. So I'd always enjoyed Cape Town. I always enjoyed the greenery, the climate, all the rest of it, the wine. All known from a young age, but so it was very attractive to me, and it was still in the early days. So it was just me and a laptop. So we said, yeah, let's do it. So we just made the leap, and that was coming on 6 years ago. I think it's five odd years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before, tell us, from Pretoria High School, you came out of school, you did a few jobs, I believe?
Yeah, so funny enough, I'd always known that I wanted to start my own business. I don't know why, it just was something that was innate to me. It was intrinsic to how I was, I don't know why. And so I had a bursary at Varsity, so I went to the company that gave me the bursary for just under 2 years, a company called Africon, and I worked there in their Geographic Information Systems department, doing tech and GIS and whatnot, a bit of software development, worked with .NET a little bit, but my sort of love and passion had always been in Linux and open source and web servers and stuff, which I played around with it at Varsity quite a bit, and embedded systems as well. I love embedded systems. But so there, worked for Africon for about 2 years. I decided that I wanted to do 2 years more technical, 2 years more management. So I did just under 2 years at Africon. It's kind of my itching time. I sort of not the 7-year itch, I have a 2-year itch, and then from there I went to Accenture, which was management consulting in Johannesburg. Worked in their comms and high tech, which was fantastic. Accenture is kind of a place for people who don't really know exactly what they want to do. So it gives you exposure to a lot of things, and they put you in situations that are way above your pay grade.
Wow, so you actually just sink or swim.
Yeah, sink or swim, definitely. They pay you well, they work you hard, you work with some amazing people, really, really top of the cream of the crop, and you work in some very interesting situations. So I worked at MTN, but the biggest thing was the launch of Virgin Mobile, which was incredibly fun. Incredibly hard, but incredibly fun. I've never worked as many hours in anything as I've worked when I worked at Virgin Mobile.
Not even in your own business?
I don't even think in PayFast I've worked as hard as I worked in particular times there. I mean, the 1 week was 108 hours, excluding lunch breaks and dinner breaks. So excluding 2 hours a day was a 108-hour week. And this was, the longest day that I worked was 42 hours or something stupid. So it was over a public holiday as well. It was a public holiday and a Sunday.
This is how they make you work, right? This is how they get their money out of there.
So we started at Virgin Mobile when there was sort of like 3 or 5 people. It was like the CEO and like 5 consultants, and then it grew to 350 odd people. So we were there for that entire progression, which was really phenomenal to see. And I was dealing with the CTO of Cell C to sort out the interfaces that between Virgin Mobile and Cell C's billing systems, all that sort of stuff. And that's the conversations you're having. So you're dealing I was 25, 24, whatever I was, dealing with the CTO of Cell C. You know, it was very interesting stuff.
That's quite interesting. Okay.
So and then from there, it was I finally I decided that after 4 years, that was kind of the point. I needed to do something. I had a slight cold feet and got a little nudge from a girlfriend, and took the plunge to start something. Didn't have a clear idea of what I wanted to do. Just knew I wanted to do something. I had been playing. I'd always been doing stuff in the evenings. I actually, one of the things I started while I was still working at Accenture was a website which ended up being the company in classifieds, which I was actually testing arbitrage, which it was just when Google AdSense started, and I wanted to see if I could get more, if I could make more money from a user leaving my website than I could pay to get them there in the first place. And by doing that, make a very small cut in the middle and just rinse and repeat and scale it. And it actually worked, surprisingly, on a relatively small scale.
Was it able to scale though?
Well, that actually ended up becoming a separate business.
Okay.
Sadly, it was a slightly bad case of timing with the likes of Gumtree and OLX and these guys coming in there.
Okay.
So that unfortunately didn't work out. But I had the contacts to get the finance. I had a friend who had the skills who came on board to do that. And so it was interesting.
So it was just one of your friends that you got hold of and said, "Hey, this is a good idea. Let's do this."
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's how you built the business together.
And that's it. Yeah. And then so from there, that was really his baby. And then I started the hard slog of getting PayFast up and running. So between when I left Accenture, I resigned, and at this time it was something I was really interested in was property investing. So you mentioned that just now. While at Accenture, I don't know what people do with their money when they start working, because as a young, like seriously, I mean, I was saying with the folks for a little while, you make a reasonable amount of money, and you don't really have a lot to spend it on. So I ended up having this cash, and I'm like very interested in property, so I started investing in property. So I bought a number of flats in and around Johannesburg, which I still own, and rented out, which I'm doing fine. But
do you have like a management company?
Yeah, no, okay. You're still going to be involved. You can't be totally out of it. I mean, I'm a chairman on 2 of the body corporates, and for the rest, I have all managing agents who manage everything, or letting agents. But you've got to watch them. I'm monthly.
And how did you build up tell us the story of tell us a little trick, come on. How you managed to get more debts than what you're able to pay back?
Yeah, so this leads on to the scary point about starting your own business with a massive amount of debt already on your name. So you can't really do this anymore. I don't know if I should actually say this, but so the trick there was
nobody's recording anything, right?
So when you apply for finance, the bank looks to see what other debt you have in your name. They hit Experian or TransUnion and say, right, what are the bonds do you have? What other debt do you have? Which credit card debt? All that sort of stuff. But the trick with this is that the property cycle takes a few months before it registers. So if you don't have anything on your name and you start fresh as a young person, you could technically apply to all the banks at the same time for different properties. And then they check and there's nothing that happens.
There you go.
So I geared myself heavily, which was just scary. It was pretty scary. It wasn't scary then. It was scary when I resigned to start my own company with very little money and about 2 million rands worth of debt.
So how did you manage the payment back? Like, did you say, okay, this month that bank's going to get their money?
No. Luckily, it's never been a problem. Thankfully, you're just going to make sure you have guys in there, so you keep the rent coming in.
For sure. Okay.
So when guys abscond without paying 20 grand worth of rent, you have a problem. But as long as you try and manage that risk, you're okay. So that was probably a stupid thing to do, but it'll pay probably a long life cycle. It'll pay off at some point. It's fine now. I mean, everything's kind of equilibrium, but and I have these assets which are appreciating. But it was a pretty scary thing to do at the time. So I left. I resigned from gainful employment, and I had this huge amount of debt. I had some money, really, not a lot of money at all. Moved in with the folks as one has to do. So made the trek back from Joburg to Pretoria, moved in with the parents. I bought my laptop from Accenture. I still have that laptop for sentimental reasons because that's the laptop I actually built the company on. So
you looked at that laptop for how many hours a day?
Yeah, it's, too many. That's why I wear glasses. And seriously, it's that laptop is the reason why I wear glasses. Its resolution is far too high, brightness far too low, and I worked on it at like 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and it was terrible. So that's why I wear glasses.
I think the dev guys know the story.
Yeah, it's a horrible thing, and that's So then. That was really kind of when I started, and it wasn't PayFast initially. As I say, I left with no real clear plan.
So you left the company, you had no idea what you're going to do, and you're just like, this is it, I'm going to do something.
I'm going to do something, to figure out what that was.
And your renting guys were paying for you there?
Yeah, look, that was another consideration. That caused me stress, but it wasn't what I needed to think about. What I had was, I had some money, and I had some ideas, and I had some contacts. And so I started trying to work to get... you do sort of consulting work or dev work or setting up websites or whatever to get a little bit of money. So I started doing a little bit of that. And then one of the guys who I'd met was a man by the name of Andy Higgins, who was the founder of Buy. He was actually the cousin of a friend of mine. So we started chatting. Yeah, very good contact to have. And definitely kindred spirits as well. So I met up with him and we started chatting about a whole bunch of stuff. I found to my dismay that some of the ideas I'd mentioned, he's like, no, but someone's doing that already. I'm like, oh, damn it. So yeah, he put a lot of holes in my theories, which was really sad for me to hear.
But at least it didn't put you on the path of...
at least I didn't go down the path 6 months in and say, oh no, someone's already beat you to it and they've done this and oh geez. So what happened then was that Buy was still pretty small at that stage, and this was now 2006, end of 2006. There it was like most smallish tech companies, it was 6 or 7 people in some little office in Bryanston. And what he'd started doing to sort of bolster up some of the trades on Buy was started importing product from China, selling it through a different company into the ecosystem. Wow. So he needed someone to run that. So he's like, well, would I be interested? So I'm like, yeah, cool, let's give it a shot. So I ran that company for a while, and that was all about importing and the harmonized schedule of imports and freight forwarding and sourcing product in China and blah, blah, blah. That's very interesting. I learned a lot of that, and I still think that's going to be very useful information, which is going to come in handy one of these days. I don't know if anyone's involved in that, but it's a very interesting field, I really did enjoy that. So we did that for a while. Eventually decided that wasn't for me. Then started building ancillary services for Buy, because at the time the product management and inventory management, all that stuff was horrible. It's still pretty horrible, I think, but it's they're working on it, but it's still pretty horrible. And I worked on something for that. But eventually Andy was like, I didn't know if this is such a best use of my time. He obviously saw a little bit of potential in me and what we could maybe do together. So we started bashing on ideas about things that we could do, and all of them, the common denominator was payment. And we looked at the market and saw what there was, and there wasn't very much there. There
can't be a market without somebody paying and buying.
Well, it's not even that. It's that there was that need. It was kind of still early days of e-commerce, but there was that need, but there wasn't really much to meet the need. There were the likes of the credit card gateways, VCS, the sort of the big old vanguard. PayPal wasn't around. There weren't really any sort of easily accessible services. Okay. Yeah. So we pretty much started with a screw it, let's do it approach, and started hitting payment.
And then, so you started off here, you got the payment going. Did you do the dev work yourself, or what was how did
Yeah, so I'm a techie. I studied computer engineering at university, which is actually an engineering degree, lots of maths, lots of physics. So learned a lot of tech there. But the web stuff was always something self-taught. I think the best developers are self-taught, or best web developers are self-taught. You learn it out of interest. So Andy provided the money, I provided the brains, and the hard sweat and labor. And that was it. Yeah. So I did dev for we formed the company in May 2007, and we started a few things a bit before that, and ready with a soft launch of our flagship product, which is our instant DFT product, in about March 2008. So about a year of dev.
Okay, so PayPal's going, PayFast is going, and did PayPal come in? That's what I'm trying to get to. Did PayPal come in at the same time as that?
Much later. The PayPal only kind of entered the market, and that's also...
Is it South African market or the international?
No, it's South African market. Because keep in mind, so our need or our goal was to service South African companies and trade in rands. It wasn't for internationals per se.
Okay.
So that was never really an issue. That still isn't really an issue because PayPal doesn't offer rands. It's more for international buyers than it's for local. And we'd always actually thought about cooperating in some way, but we haven't really gone down that road yet. So it wasn't really a consideration until about 2 years ago, and people actually started asking, what's PayPal going to do for you? It's, if anything, it improved our business because it raised the profile of e-commerce. And a lot of guys started wanting to start doing stuff online. They found that they couldn't really do what they needed to do with PayPal, and they came to us. That's one of the things, but it just generally raised e-commerce in the landscape.
Now, on the PayPal, when you sign up for PayPal, you've got a PayFast account. Sorry.
Don't worry, it's okay. It happens.
So,
funny.
there we go. That's the end of it. With PayFast, you guys have to sign in. But it's exactly the same as with PayPal. You've got to sign in. But I hear a lot of people saying that they wish there wasn't a sign in. And I think you're also going to be bringing out, or you're hoping to bring out a product where you don't have to sign in.
So something when I built the company, built the service to start with, it was built on the idea of a person-to-person payment system. But what we learned along the way through some hard lessons was that's not really allowed in South Africa unless you're a bank. We learned that from the Reserve Bank. Thank you to them. So yeah, there's some scary stories about that as an entrepreneur. I tell you what, payments. Don't get into payments. I just sort of recommend that to anyone. It's a heavily regulated and very tense industry to get into. So I got these. I remember receiving this letter from the Reserve Bank, and this was now a good old-fashioned letter, white letter, embossed writing in this letter. I think that letter cost more than my first paycheck. It was crazy. And this thing is saying, hi there to the owner, the director of PayFast. We believe that you may be contravening this law, this law, this law, this law, and this law, and this law. Please come see us urgently. Kind regards. The National Payment System Department. So I'm like, oh dear. Andy, put on a suit. Let's go. So there, we had to go to the Reserve Bank.
Did he ever have problems like that with his eBay?
Not in that sense, because it's more of it's a retail operation. The retail operation is relatively simple. It has its challenges with regards to it's general business challenges, which is marketing, finance, cash flow, all those sort of things. But you don't really have a regulatory issue. Whereas there are a lot of laws and a lot of regulation around payments. You've got to be careful.
And South African laws are different to international laws?
Yeah, look, every country has different laws. One of the biggest problems for us is that in South Africa we don't have the concept of an e-money license. So you either have no banking license or a banking license. Now, a banking license costs, you need to have 250 million rand in unsecured assets. So we didn't have that kind of money, sadly. I wish to say we did, but we don't. So the next down would be a community banking license, which you need 50 million. Bargain. But sadly we didn't have either. So you don't have this concept of e-money. So it's very tricky. Whereas if you go to the UK, the Financial Services Board there has no banking license, an e-money license, and a banking license. Now it'd be great if we had the e-money license. We don't. There are moves afoot to change it a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't. So we're classified as a third-party payment provider, and our oversight is from the Reserve Bank. We're a member of PASA, and we chat to the Reserve Bank every now and again. So that's what oversees our operation. But that means you can't do certain things. You can't operate e-money, as it were. That's the business of a bank. And there are a few other things. You can't do remittances, which is the business of a bank as well. So I can't just give you 50 rand. That's a remittance. There has to be an implied sale. You have to give me your pad, your pen or something.
Yeah.
There has to be a sale that takes place in order for us to transact.
They don't accept hugs.
Yeah, sadly not. No, high five, virtual high five, emoticon. Here's a smile. No, it's got to be something that takes place. So why were we on this again? I can't remember now. There was a lot about the regulation and compliance. There was hard things there. So every country's laws are different in this regard, and this is something we didn't know. We learned this along the way.
Well, this is how most businesses do.
Yeah, that's it. It's hard knocks. But we put in these suits. We went to the Reserve Bank, and they were about a nice bunch of guys. They just really wanted to know what we were doing, why we were doing it, and if we complied with the regulations, and that was all fine. Then I got another letter from the banking oversight department, and that was from Advocate Blackbeard. And that was also another scary letter.
Scary.
Another scary letter to get. What are you doing, you I hope he isn't watching this. Anyway, so I mean, pretty much at the time you had Tito Mboweni and you had 3 guys underneath him, and it was Advocate Blackbeard was one of them. So it's again another thing. We think you're contravening this law, this now, different set of laws. This law, this law, this law, this law. And I said, please chat to your friends in the National Payment System Department. It should be okay. And they did that, and we were fine.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of these weird things that happen when you deal with payments. There's also a lot of complexity with Visa and MasterCard due to the nature of operation, which was not sitting into any of the particular boxes. So that was another big challenge, because we started with a flagship product with Instant EFT, and then we needed to put credit cards on, because we want to aggregate across a variety of different payment mechanisms, make it easy for guys to start trading online. But to get them to agree to let us process credit cards was a year or more battle to get that right. And in that time, I ran out of money. So I had to start applying the money I didn't have into the company. Andy as well.
Back into the debt we go.
Yeah, well, I've never been out of debt. So the first time from starting PayFast, I can't remember the exact date now, but from starting the company in May 2007. The first time I was out of debt was last year, February, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, when you say out of debt, good enough.
Thank you, appreciate it. I still have all the housing debt, but that's good debt. It's the credit card debt and all that stuff that you don't want.
Yeah,
so yeah, I paid thousands and tens of thousands or whatever to banks for that sort of debt. But that's the first time was 5-6 years into the company.
Okay, now you're on the front end of e-commerce. Tell us about, where do you see South Africa going with e-commerce, and where are we on a worldwide?
So e-commerce in South Africa is tiny. Anyone who's starting an e-commerce business, please understand the numbers before you think that you're going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg and make billions. E-commerce in South Africa, I mean, the stats will get updated, but the latest figures is that 0.4% of retail occurs online. 0.4% in South Africa. Okay, it's not a developed market, but in South Africa, 0.4%. So your physical retail market is about 670 billion rand a year, and your online retail market is in the region of 3 to 4 billion rand a year. That's excluding travel. That's one caveat. Travel is by far a massive winner in that regard. They do over 10 billion rand a year, but it's really, really small. All right, now that's obviously going to grow. E-commerce sees the biggest portion of the growth. You're sitting between 15 and 30% growth year on year for e-commerce, whereas physical retail grows at about 6 or 7%, sort of in line with GDP or whatever. So definitely fast growing, but historically industries have seen, or markets have seen, a tipping point when you hit 1%. So we're still quite a way off that, but definitely fast approaching there.
So once you hit 1%, it starts growing more exponentially.
Yeah, that's it. That's the tipping point when e-commerce spend is 1% of physical retail spend. I'm involved in the physical retail operation as well, and something I will say, anyone who's thinking about selling something, if you think, okay, online's going to be easy or the rest of it, but very seriously consider opening a physical store. Like, it's much easier. I'm an evangelist for e-commerce, but comparing the two, I mean, physical store I was involved in was profitable in 2 or 3 months. Online retail store, 2 years. You can't grow as much. Okay, there's a cap. You're sitting. It's capped by the market where you are, whereas your online can scale exponentially. So that's the difference between the two. But sort of quick wins, physical retail is you pay your rent.
A physical store with an online store, and then eventually move over to the online and become.
They're tricky to do together. That I will say, they're very tricky to do together because they are different businesses. You market them differently, you manage them differently. There are different.
You're essentially starting 2 businesses.
It's pretty much. You're starting 2 businesses that have 2 different sets of rules about them. But just in terms of making money, like fairly quickly, physical store is way easier. Your rent buys your feet, whereas for online, you have to pay for every person who comes to that store. You're paying in social media marketing, you're paying in Google AdWords, you're paying in Bing, whatever, you're paying to get them to your site. Whether it's that you're paying 50 grand to some whiz-bang SEO expert to get them to make your site look better so that they come there and find it naturally, that's one thing, but you're paying for every single customer that you're getting there, whereas your rent in a physical store buys those feet without you doing very much about it.
Okay, now the actual running of PayFast itself, are you more still on the dev side, or have you moved over to actually doing the?
So we're a lean and mean team. We're not. This is not a 100-person company or anything here. So I'm still pretty much involved in a lot of aspects. Still, keep an eye on all dev. I'm still the person who knows the system the best. That's changing thankfully, but I'm still the one who knows all the bits and pieces. Like, oh no, that's why I did this over here. It is commented well for devs. It is commented well, but
that's what they all say.
Yeah. Very well commented. I dare anyone to say any otherwise. But I still know a lot about that. But you've got to be involved in. So there's obviously always managing people. There's performance reviews, there's accounting, there's all the business administration stuff, and there's a lot of strategic things as well. And especially now, because the market is, I wouldn't say it's exploding, but there's a lot happening. There's Empires, which is coming with a fury. This is all these devices like Square-like devices, but they're EMV compliant.
Are you thinking of going into those realms?
Definitely. I mean, it's something we've been looking at for a long time. We're evaluating our options in that regard. There are a lot of people who are involved in the hardware, whereas we're very much involved in the software side of things. So there could be a marriage of minds. With a number of different
Empires, for those that don't know, it's basically mobile payment systems. Like, for example, I come on my cell phone, swap my cell phone on your cell phone, and you get the money, basically.
Sort of. That would be.
This is very, very rough.
So it's when you have those devices. So I think like the ones you plug into the bottom of your phone and you stick in the credit card, and there's an app on the phone, and you're able to charge the card. That's Empires. It's basically like having one of those big terminals, but just a much smaller, more lightweight, and more cost-effective one. Because those terminals that you guys are used to plugging into every day to spend your hard-earned money cost about 7,000 to 10,000 rand a pop. So
really?
Yeah, they're pretty expensive.
Is that to actually put it in your store?
No, that's what that device costs. That little device, it costs.
Surely, come on, guys, somebody develop a cheaper one. Seriously.
Well, that's what the Empires devices are. So, like, if you take the Nedbank Pocket Close, you can buy it now for 2,500.
Okay,
right?
sure.
And that's even not that cost effective. There are ones that are going to come at price points way below that.
Yeah.
So you're starting to look at 1,500 rand as opposed to 10,000 rand. Now, this is not actually. So you never really pay as a merchant. You don't pay 10,000 rand for the device. You rent it from the bank. But that's what they actually cost, and it's not very mobile. I mean, you do get the portable ones, but they're not especially mobile. Yeah. So with the kind of market we have in the emerging economies, it's very mobile. There's a lot of informal trade that's going on, and these guys are all doing cash. Cash still makes up the lion's share of any economy, and with Empires, the guys are hoping to get more of that market transacting on cards, make it easier, make it safer. You guys don't have to carry cash the whole time. So there's going to be this year, I think particularly, is going to be a big year for Empires hitting the market. There's a lot of solutions which are all being trialed at the moment, and they'll soon be in the market. There's really only one actually in the market, but there's a lot of
competition for PayFast itself. How's that going in South Africa?
Yeah, we're kind of odd because we sit in the middle of some of the guys out there. So there's sort of the old vanguard of the credit card gateways where you have to go to a bank to get a merchant account and you sign up with a gateway and your integration is very complex. You've got to have some dev skills to actually be able to do it. Then we sit a little bit higher up from that where you don't require a merchant account when you sign up with PayFast. We're what the banks and the credit card networks term an aggregator. So we bring everything through our own infrastructure, which gives us better costing to some degree. Makes it a lot easier to get going, but there's maybe a little bit of a lack of flexibility to certain things. So we sit at a level slightly higher up. So there's quite a few guys who act in this area. We're a little bit higher up, and there's not as many competitors here. I mean, there are, but there aren't. So probably our biggest competitors now, and one of them which never used to be a competitor, was PayU. So you've got PayU, Netcash, MonsterPay, which is a ridiculous name, and don't know who. Yeah, those are kind of them. Yeah.
Okay. I like it, MonsterPay. Okay, let's see. We've got some questions going on the board here. -2 votes. Why is it -2 votes? Who is PayFast? Because that's gone. Okay, there we go. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and company. Your opinion?
Bitcoin.
Who will die?
Okay, so one of the things, I'm not an early adopter. I don't know if that's necessarily a good or a bad thing. I think because the industry I'm in, it's probably a good thing. So I'm very skeptical about Bitcoin. I really, from a tech point of view, I love the idea of a cryptocurrency.
Sure.
And I love how it's created. I'm very reticent considering its dubious beginnings. If you guys go read how Bitcoin was supposedly started by this phantom figure, that's a bit odd to me. But Bitcoin's not the only one. Hey, there's Litecoin. There's about 10 different cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, obviously, the biggest market cap and most popular. But I don't know, jury's still out for me. I mean, we've looked at Bitcoin. We are looking at it. We were actually approached years ago about guys who wanted us to be a Bitcoin exchange. But I'm still very skeptical about it. But we are actually engaging with some guys this year about Bitcoin and what the opportunities there are.
I see some local online sites do actually use Bitcoin for their sales.
Yeah, there was an article today actually I read. There's they listed about 6 or 7, which doesn't sound like any great shakes to me. But there are some that are engaging with it. To me, I've read a lot of articles about Bitcoin. One which is great was basically likening Bitcoin to the biggest Ponzi scheme that's ever existed. So, and this is the thing, it's like, so anyone who's got Bitcoin, seriously, what do you use it for? Does anyone actually pay? Do they buy anything with Bitcoin? Or are you speculating by buying Bitcoin to see what happens with the exchange rate? And it's going to go up. You go, yes, you're going to cash out into an actual currency, which is dollars or rands or whatever it is. Because one of the fundamental concepts of a currency is that it remains relatively stable, which Bitcoin does not.
No, it's fluctuates all the time.
So it's not really, as it currently stands, it's not really currency. And the fact that it has a cap on 21 million Bitcoins, that's kind of concerning as well then, because so then you're going to have 21 million Bitcoins in distribution, and then the price is just going to go up. There's some weirdness about it. So I'm not a big proponent of Bitcoin, but I'm not foolish enough to think that this could be something which is the next big thing. We're looking at it.
Cool. Next question. What are the biggest factors in gaining customers' trust?
It's really low tech, but I think time is probably the easiest, the biggest one. You need to be around for a few years before people trust you. I think the magic number for me that I found was 5 years. You need to be around for 5 years before people really trust you with their money. And that's as simple as it is. I mean, if you as a business can be around for 5 years or longer, you've proven that you're not going to go anywhere. It even happens with banks. I mean, look what happened to Sambo 2020. They can go under very quickly. So even who you choose as your bank. I mean, if a new bank springs up and they have a banking license and they have all the money, they can go bang in 2 years and you're left holding nothing. So it's a very scary thing. It can happen to any company. So I think time. If you've been around for a long enough time, you know that, or as a consumer, you know that brand's been there, recognized they've been around for a while, they must be doing something right. I'm happy enough to trust them.
For sure. Okay. Why is M-Pesa not taken off in South Africa?
I don't think M-Pesa has taken off anywhere besides Kenya. And the reason
for the internet there?
No, it's actually simple market economics. Safaricom in Kenya was the most trusted brand and is still the most trusted brand in Kenya. They had approximately 90% of the market when they launched M-Pesa. Safaricom could pretty much do whatever they wanted. They pretty much did what they wanted, and then they spoke to the regulator, the central bank, later. They didn't really go for approval or anything like that. So, and it was sorely needed at the time, because there you're sitting with a very informal economy where the way that people had to get money back to, so you had all the young guys working in the cities, and they had to send money home to their aged parents in the rural areas on a regular basis. And what often happened there is that they would give, Thomas, 1,000 shillings or 10,000 shillings, and he would take it back to the parents, but by the time it got there, it was 7,000 shillings. He bought a beer here and there or whatever along the way, and the money had decreased. Now they could send money instantly from Nairobi to their parents far remote, and it cost them virtually nothing. So they set up this amazing network of these independent guys where you could cash in and cash out the system. They owned the market, because what Safaricom did there, because you're still listening with a lot of feature phones. Now what they did is they went and replaced every single client's SIM card, right? Because it was a SIM toolkit. It was a SIM toolkit application in M-Pesa, so it worked on any phone. So if you guys know what I'm talking about, you think of the old days when they had MTN banking, when you had like an old Nokia 3330 or whatever. They had one of the options on your menu was MTN banking. That's what M-Pesa was. So it was a SIM toolkit. It was on the SIM. It worked on any phone. So pretty much they had the market share to replace everyone's SIM card. They were the most trusted brand. They could pretty much do whatever they want, and they set up this amazing ecosystem. And that worked because they owned the market. South Africa is a very different ecosystem, or a very different scenario where you have 3/4 cellular providers all sharing a chunk of the market. And here you have to have a banking license in order to do this. So, Vodacom partnered with Nedbank to get this right, but they're using it as a way to drive up their own signership or usage of their own products. So Nedbank wants people to interact with Nedbank, with Nedbank terminals, Nedbank banks, Nedbank bank accounts. Vodacom wants it to be Vodacom customers. Yes, it's opened up and anyone can technically use it, but fundamentally they want to drive up signership of their own products. So until you have something which is truly ubiquitous, it's not going to achieve that growth or that success that M-Pesa saw in Kenya. And I'm very happy to say that someone asked me this when I was actually asked to present on this probably 2 or 3 years ago. I said exactly the same thing I'm saying now, and I'm glad to see that I was actually right, which happens every now and again. Yeah.
Where did you get inspiration in the early days? Are you a Rich Dad follower?
Yes, Rich Dad Poor Dad is great for inspiration. I definitely recommend that people do read that. Robert Kiyosaki so he makes the most of his money from selling all those books and getting you to buy into the whole thing. But it is very good inspirational stuff. Inspiration's hard. It's hard when you're an entrepreneur because it's long hours, it's late nights. Pretty much everyone can't really connect with what you're doing. They don't really understand it. So even your closest friends, your family, they'll be supportive in their own way, but they're also very worried. They don't want to see you fail. They don't want to see you lose, or they don't want to see you suffer. And you will fail, and you will suffer. You might fail. You're definitely going to suffer. That's just a given. So they don't want to see that. They want to see you in a nice, stable job, earning a decent income. They don't want to see their baby suffer. So I had a big problem in those early days because the biggest voices sort of telling me to not do it, or isn't maybe time you sort of job, were those closest to me, which is pretty hard. So it's difficult. You've got to make it happen for yourself. You've kind of got to have the pig-headedness to continue in the face of potentially overwhelming odds. No, it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely times when you want to throw in the towel.
We had the very first speaker was Nick Aronambus from Nick Socks, and you've got to be something wrong with you mentally.
Yeah, you do. You've got to love hitting yourself, hitting your head against a brick wall. It's it is. You're choosing to suffer. I use that word loosely, but you're choosing to suffer for a certain period of your life, so that you don't have to sort of suffer later. So you're choosing to work like a dog, for a few years, so that you don't have to work at all later. You're not choosing work-life balance. People ask, what about balance? How do you achieve balance as an entrepreneur? You don't achieve balance. There's no point trying to achieve balance. You've chosen an unbalanced lifestyle. You've chosen an unbalanced lifestyle now where you work too much, for hopefully an unbalanced lifestyle later where you don't work at all. Yeah, yes, hopefully. You can't be stupid enough to think that it can't all go wrong. Yeah, for sure. And you get left with nothing. It is a gamble. You are gambling a bit with your life. You're gambling with years.
What is the value of transactions per year through PayFast?
That's a trade secret. I'm unfortunately not going to share those numbers. What I will say is that our growth has been really, really encouraging the last while. We double our transaction volumes every year, so we grow at least 100% every year.
Wow.
So I target, when I'm looking at this, I target between sort of 3 and 6% month-on-month growth. But that would be averaged out, and that's hold true for actually for the last 3 or 4 years. So now, even off a relatively large-ish base, we're growing 100% every year. So it's now tens of millions, hundreds of millions of rands. So it's a large amount of money.
What's your advice on startups having to outsource their biggest strength in the firm?
Very good.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Don't do it. You can't outsource your biggest strength. Then what are you? No, you just can't do that. I mean, it's like saying that you're a marketer, but you don't do anything, and you're going to outsource all your marketing to China. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. You can't outsource your core competency. I think there are, there are success stories in this regard. You probably can, like Tim Ferriss and his 4-hour work week, and there are cases of. I remember there's one interesting story about a developer. I think it was in Silicon Valley, or it was in RSA. It was RSA Security, and he had outsourced his work to someone in China, and he'd actually mailed him his secure token to be able to log in to the systems internally to actually do the work. And they ended up finding this connection coming in from China, and they're like, what the hell is going on here? And they figured out this guy basically was doing is coming to work, he spent an hour answering email, and he spent the rest of the day surfing the net, like doing whatever. And so
work week, come on.
Some back in China was doing all his work. And I think it worked out that he was paying this guy 10 or 20% of what he was earning as his salary. So I know, that's arbitrage right there. But generally speaking, a company, I don't believe, can outsource their core competency. What you could do is partner. Now that's a little bit different. You could partner. So if you have a great idea, you don't necessarily have to have all the goods. So if you've got a great idea, you can partner with the development company, you can partner with the marketing company, share the pie. That you can definitely do. But you can't outsource your core competency.
Okay, now this next question is actually one of our topics next month, but have you ever fired a bad customer?
Luckily it hasn't happened too often, but I have no compunctions doing so. Some people are just not worth the effort. I mean, it sounds a bit callous to say so, but
80%.
They're just not. Like there's some, and generally speaking, most people are pretty reasonable. Something that I've learned in dealing with problem clients, which you have to do, thankfully not too often, but it has happened, is you just need to call people. Don't back and forth on email, or that just escalates badly. You phone someone, and people are generally pretty reasonable, and as soon as they know they're talking to a human being, they calm down, and you can have a normal chat and joke about things. We have some amazing customers, actually. I mean, there's one customer who's a good case in point. It's either today or yesterday, I can't even remember now. We were putting him onto our new payment engine, and he had some queries, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, cool. I was telling him about how it uses Ajax and all the rest of it. And he's like, Ajax sounds like a great guy. Put him on. So we're like, hey, great, cool. I'm gonna flick the switch for you. And he's like, great. I feel different already. You know, just the only response I had to that was lol. I mean, I'm using lol in a business email to a client. It's crazy. But so you have some really good clients, and then you have some which are just really not worth the effort. For us, mostly where we've fired a client has been fraud. That's more where they were skirting the boundaries of legitimacy, and because we were involved, we're like, this is not going to work.
It cannot sell drugs on our platform.
It's like maybe on the side, but no. So we've had to do that every now and again. We'll be like, we're keeping all your money, and you must go away. Not really. We don't generally do that. We're pretty good about it, but we've had to
keep off the money.
Yes, that's exactly. We take an 80% cut. So we've had to do that every now and again. We have some guys. I mean, we had weird things like guys selling, what the hell are these things? Are these license plate turners? So
I wanted to design one of those, man. Awesome.
So, generally a ruling comes to me, I'm like, sorry. We can't have that. No, sorry, go away.
That's a seriously my idea. I've actually got to come on this. Really.
See, that's one of those ones where it's skirting the law. We're like, nah, we can't be involved.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Can it fool Sunrail?
It probably could. Well, yes, it probably could actually.
Probably could fool
Yeah.
What is your leadership style?
She's, I don't know, informal. Is that her style? This is the first time I've worn jeans in a few months now. We're very much a shorts, t-shirts operation. People are higher people, and they pretty much do what they need to do. I really enjoy my team. They're great. When we're a very quiet bunch, but when we do have fun, it's really, really awesome. So I don't find that I need to be too firm or stern about certain things. I mean, you've got to be clear. That's one thing you have to be is clear, and that's what I've learned and I've tried to be. I mean, the hardest part I found of being an entrepreneur is managing people. That's something you have to learn. Luckily, I had a little bit of experience from Accenture with that, but I've learned that along the way. And you just have to be clear with things, and you have to deal with them as they happen. Like if there's someone's doing something you don't like, you can't really let it slide. You have to deal with it, and you say, look, you're doing this really well, and this really well, and this really well, but I'm kind of concerned what you're doing over here. Please stop doing this. You can't be too wishy-washy. You've got to be pretty clear. So I would say my style is informal, but firm and fairly clear. I don't know if well, actually, I can't really say true employees. You know, like the other guys here from PayFast are kind of more, more sort of equal footing. But everyone else, you know, I think that's pretty much.
Make sure the message comes across properly.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. This fish, how it is with you towards the fish?
Yeah, please don't die. Too.
No, don't die on us. We're having sushi later, by the way. Everybody. Okay. Don't think changing the mindset that. Don't you think changing the mindset that e-commerce is safe should be the primary object?
Well, I don't know about the primary objective, but yes, definitely. This misconception that e-commerce is not safe is one we definitely all have to work at changing. I mean, people as well, like everyone from historically has got this mindset that using your credit card online is, oh no, I'm not going to do that. I'm rather going to pay by EFT, which is completely the wrong thing to do. Because if you're at all concerned about the legitimacy of the end recipient, you should use your credit card. Because your credit card gives you recourse, EFT does not. So there's a lot of that mindset that we need to actively work at changing. I'm happier to transact online than I am sort of offline in a lot of instances, because online I know that there is SSL encryption. My stuff is encrypted from here to there. I can see what's happening. I know that these idiots aren't doing something weird with my details. Well, sometimes you don't know, but even if it is a problem, you have recourse. So definitely.
I agree with you, but what about those that, for example, my uncle refuses to go on e-commerce or anything online, doesn't have internet banking because, and I agree with him, because if he had to get a phishing mail, I mean, he'd have no idea. He'd click the button, he'd go through, he'd fill in his details, and he would get caught as a sucker.
Like anything, the weakest point in these things is the human. The human element is always the weakest point. I mean, that's why social engineering.
So it's just like the mindset, but also a training of education and be safe online. Make sure that you don't click links in email.
But the same is true offline to a large degree. The same is true offline. I mean, the thing is, people make it. I don't know. They sign. Their mind changes. They lose their mind when they deal with online and email. They don't think clearly. Like, I mean, if you're walking in the street and someone says, hey, can you give me 1,000 rand? You're not just going to give them 1,000 rand. You're not going to give them your credit card details. You're not going to say, oh, I just want to borrow your phone for a moment and then run off with it. There's certain things which you need to be cognizant of, aware of, and the same is true online. It's easy to look legitimate online, whereas it's not so easy to look legitimate in the physical world. But even so, I mean, all those emails, I mean, if you just read them, you can see that they're rubbish.
Well, I think they're designed to catch this intelligence. Okay. So, are you planning to list PayFast?
List, as in public? No, I don't.
Come on, that's what everybody does.
I don't think that would be the case. I mean, in our kind of market, I don't think that's a very legitimate strategy for online businesses yet. Okay. We're definitely in a much smaller ecosystem. That especially not in South Africa. I mean, if we had to go internationally, then maybe. But for South Africa, no. I mean, private equity is a good way to go. But yeah, it's not really ever been something I was thinking about. Could be at a stage, but I mean, we're talking again. This pool is so small. We're not really at that stage in our evolution yet. I mean, we look at the US and you see what's happening there. And even in UK and anywhere else, these things are happening. But they're much further along their e-commerce evolution than we are. We're not there. We're not there yet.
Okay, so the last question.
Okay.
Before the fish dies. Okay, so. You're interested in photography,
so funny enough,
and interested in a whole bunch of stuff. So, what is your embedded systems and online and your marketing and your property? What is your dream job? And tell us a bit about your photography.
So, the photography is actually not. It's not something I'm interested in per se. It's actually a friend of mine he's a videographer and a photographer who rents high-end photographic equipment. He works in the photographic industry, and I've been roped into doing some of the tech aspects of this. So to any of those techies out there, you think servers and all that sort of equipment is impressive, you should deal with high-end photographic equipment. It is insane. So just as an example, one of the cameras that we own is a thing called a C500. It's a Canon C500. So this thing records at what they call 4K. All right, so it's 4 times the quality of HD. And it records this digitally. So it's a 4,000 by 2,000 pixels that it records at, and recording 30, 60, 120 frames a second. So at 30 frames a second, it pushes out about 350 megabytes of data a second. And at 60K, it goes double, it goes 700 megabytes a second. So in order to record an hour of footage, you need a 2.5 terabyte SSD to just record that footage. So they have guys called data wranglers now who are responsible for getting the stuff off, and it's intense. I mean, I don't deal with anywhere near that kind of traffic when we deal with online stuff. It doesn't touch that. Like if you're dealing with YouTube or the rest of it, yes, but the technology that goes into these cameras is ridiculous. I mean, we have to spec stuff that can handle 1.2 terabytes of data a second. I mean, it's ridiculous stuff. Anyway, so it's really cool, but it's not something that I'm not interested in photography. I'm interested in the technology. Okay. So we deal with, we have a Red Scarlet and a C500 and a C300 which rent out for ridiculous amounts to the media industry. But the other thing which is really cool is time-slice photography, which is quite fun. That's when if you watch Matrix and you do bullet time, and they take a snapshot of a point in time in 3 dimensions, and they achieve this with a rig of 40, 50 cameras, all centered around a central point to take a photo at the same time. So you have this, I only want to hear one click, and it takes a shot, and that gets composited into a single image which you can move around in. It's really, really cool. But to deal with the data coming off these cameras all the time, because they're shooting in RAW, and you've got to try and get the stuff off. So I got talking to him, and we actually ended up building a system where all these cameras are tethered together in USB, and you can control them, and you can set all their settings, you can suck all the data off them as you need it. That's pretty intense stuff. So that's quite fun. It mixes it up a little bit. So I enjoy doing that. And being on a film set is very, very exciting. We went to a film set for this advert for Spar a little while ago, and there was 350 odd people on a set. So you've got catering guys running around with food, and you've got the grips doing bowling here and there, and you've got lighting guys, and everyone has a job. It's like the army; they've all got titles. So you need to know who the DOP is and who the assistant director is, the AE, the director, all these guys. It's very much like the army. It's interesting. But in terms of asking what I'd like to be involved in the future, I don't necessarily have a dream job per se. My dream job when I was at varsity was actually working for Cisco, which ironically I see is in this building. So maybe if PayFast doesn't work out, I'll come and give them a shot. But because I love networking and the routers, it's really, really fun stuff.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. But what I really enjoy is renewable energy. So I'd love to, at some point, be involved in a wind energy installation of some way, shape, or form.
Well, you can help improve my smart meter.
Oh, okay, that sounds great. Yeah. Wind energy is an amazing thing, and I'm so happy that the South African government has finally cottoned onto this now that Eskom is in crisis. I don't know if anyone saw this, but Eskom's had this emergency today because their grid's about to collapse. So it couldn't come at a better time that they're now developing these wind farms all over the country. And started with the one in Darling, which was four turbines. Now there's massive ones at this holiday house, this family holiday house we have. They've got an installation there of 40. They're all over the place.
The one in PE as well is a massive one.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's one in Helena Bay. There's one up the road here. There's this one now, which is St. Francis, Jeffreys Bay area. There's a few going up there because it's a very good usable band of wind energy. So yeah, it's very exciting stuff. It's the cheapest form of energy, just by the by for anyone who wants to know. Cheapest form of energy production over the long term compared to anything else.
There's one just installed in Hopefield, West Coast.
Yeah.
There we go. Great, there we go. Thanks to Jaws the fish for staying alive. Jonathan, thank you very much.
No, thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, okay. So, where's our social media manager? Is he alive? There he is. There it is. Okay, before he gets involved, we've got 2 competitions, right? We've got the business cards in a fishbowl.
Not this fishbowl.
Not this one.
Poor guy.
And we've got the Twitter competition.
Has
So,
everybody thrown in their business cards?
has everybody put in their business card? Now's the time to do it.
Thrown another one in after your lovely chances.
Get those business cards out quick, people, if you haven't thrown them in. Okay, while the business cards are being thrown in, social media manager, where's the camera view? Get this. Okay. Right. Actually, Paul, can you come forward? Can you come to the front? Sorry, man.
So they can. Here we go.
You come to
Share the love. Right, guys. Everyone, thanks all for coming tonight. It's been good. Happy to say there's been a number of tweets in the basket. However, there's only one that made it to checkout. So we're doing that. We're kidding myself. myself thinking about what to say. Anyway. All right, so the two that stood out, but one that topped it, the I suppose the follow-on was Adele. To be an awesome entrepreneur, you must be insane. So that was a quote from the first event, I think it was.
Yeah.
However, she did say Startup around Cape Town is the most awesome mental asylum I've ever been to. I bet you've been to some crazy
There you
stuff.
go. So Adele.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But our winner tonight is Eric10810 on Twitter. Where are you? This man over here. Yeah. Okay, so Eric's tweet was the following. It seems Jono is a true South African grinder that has kept it real and is still down to earth. Someone to truly admire. So I think what Eric is basically saying is that half the job to being an entrepreneur is keeping grounded. The rest will happen.
There you
Cool.
go.
Well
Okay.
done.
Thank you. Eric, you are the lucky winner of an upward shuffle.
Thank you very much.
There you go. Lucky guy. Right, now we've got a guy from PayFast, and he's been at a lot of events. And he's one of the reasons why we got sponsorship, so give this guy a round.
He's still paying.
Anyway, Rainer, I'll hold the ball. You get to draw
Alright.
the winner of a business card. There you go.
Got Kerry both from Lamika.
Woo!
We also get a more
But we also have so well done.
I hope you're using PayFast, otherwise I'm taking that back.
Thanks. Okay. Cool. So we just have to say thank you to our sponsors. We've got Code Like Clockwork. Brilliant programmers, we need them. We've got Atlantic Imbizo for this really awesome venue. We've got PayFast for sponsoring the last, well, practically every single startup round so far. And WooThemes, or WooCommerce, same company, do amazing stuff. So guys, you can support them. If you need a lift home, get hold of Uber. Okay, you get your little discount. I'll give you the proper link. Just come to me. Or check your emails. And then that is that. We managed to get in quite a nice team going here. It's all about making friends, about connecting, and about growing Silicon Cape. Thank you very much. And Jonathan, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
There you go.